Welcome back, everybody. This is the Benjinator, and you're watching Let's Play Xenogears, the greatest game of all time. So, last time we saw that, basically, Cain was executed by Ramses. He was convinced to kill him, and, as a result, the Gazel Ministry was able to unleash what was known as the Geisha Key. And, God's Ark emerged from the ocean, in kind of a creepy manner. We also saw, too, that Ellie and Faye had kind of a moment. You have to check the previous episode to understand what I'm saying, but it kind of seemed like Faye was reluctant to let Ellie, go along with him. She eventually agreed, but, he had some manner of persuasion that he used to get her to do that. So, anyway, now we're going to be seeing what happens next with the Ark that has risen from the ocean. So here we go. Into the breach. There we are. So, yeah, the floating continent. It looks a little familiar, as I mentioned in the previous video. Aha! Well, that makes a little more sense. Central hull of a spacecraft. Viewers, do you remember the introduction of this game? Well, that ship is the same ship. Remember, it crashed into the planet after, it seemed like some alien force took control of it. So yeah, some kind of accident 10,000 years ago. So one can surmise that, given all the evidence we've seen from this game, that basically human beings are aliens on this planet. And it was because of this ship crashing into this planet that caused it to be so. Isn't that crazy? Raziel's tree. Interesting. That's another biblical reference, actually. So yeah, at this point, that does ask you if you want to change your party members and open up a menu. So of course, I got the three amigos. I got Faye, Citan, and Bart. My three favorite characters to use. And this is an interesting battle that you're going to be seeing. Oh man, that thing. That thing is some scary stuff. Yeah, that thing looks like a giant turtle, actually. But this is a weird battle that's going to be coming up. That's the reason why they asked you to save, is because you're actually going to be fighting this thing, believe it or not. Yep, there it is. Here we go. To be taken on this giant creature. So this is probably one of the strangest battles ever. What you're going to be noticing is that I'm just going to be sitting there and charging. Because if you attack this thing, what's going to happen is that it's going to restore all of its HP. And so you might be thinking to yourself, well, how do you possibly beat it? Well, if it uses that attack, it halves everything. And so, essentially, the idea is to have it use it on itself 4 times, I believe. And then we're going to get down to, 10,000. Once we get to 5,000, okay, maybe it just halves itself 3 times. Then what you want to do is you want to have Faye use his system id, and then you just want to smack it in the face and it'll die. So we basically charge one more time. And one thing I should mention, this is kind of a weird thing that goes on, is that if you actually use one of the mini PlayStation 2s to play this game, this battle glitches out for some reason. But also, there's other instances in which this battle can glitch out, as you'll see in just a little bit. Sometimes when this attacks you, when this guy attacks you, it can just kind of freeze. Thankfully, this hasn't happened yet. But what you're going to be seeing is that when it tries to attack Bart, I believe, it's going to freeze up. So this is about the time where you would want to go into system id. I didn't do it this time, but when it's down to about 5,000 HP, I believe that System Id actually does do a little more than 5,000 just because the armor rating for this creature is pretty low. But you don't want to. You just don't want to attack when obviously it's at full HP, because then it's just going to restore itself and it's gonna hamper your progress. So yeah, I waited a 4th time there, and this of course is perfectly acceptable as well. It's almost dead. But unfortunately, as you'll see, yeah. So I go to System Id. I'm ready to go. Gonna be kicking him in the face as usual, because I do like kicking him in the face with Voltol too. But yeah, it does this and it kind of freezes up right there. So there's a chance that's gonna happen. But if you just kind of wait, if you just kind of do it in three turns instead of 4. So this is the clip where I actually managed to do this. I had to go through this whole process again, but in this battle, Deus is about 5,000. As you can see, it does 7. So we're in good shape. Just so the strategy for defeating Deus is fairly straightforward. You'll see that just wait for him to use the HP Haver 3 times, and then System Id, kick him in the face. You're done. Again, it's a weird battle, and it's glitchy. So if you can get through this, it's a big milestone. But yeah, it's going to be a while before you actually get to fight again. We're going to be going into a little bit of a cutscene haven. So yeah, that was Deus. Little disappointing, right? It's supposed to be the mythical creature. Oh, look, a cutscene. That's fun. Yeah, there's only a handful of these, like, sort of FMV cutscenes in the game. I mean, we've seen probably more anime than we have, you know, these kind of cutscenes, like the ones that you would see in, like, Final Fantasy VII, for example. You know, this was made in '98. I think it was slightly before Final Fantasy VIII, so this was one of those, like, between Final Fantasy projects that Square was making. So this part is really cool. I really like this. This is, yeah, these glowing objects are so cool. So pretty. Even for, like, 1998 graphics, they just look really nice. Raziel's tree. Yeah, I'll have to look up what the reference is. I know that is some kind of biblical thing. But what we're actually going to notice on the left is what is known as the Tree of Sephiroth, which is part of Kabbalic Judaism. And I actually wrote a paper on the Kabbalah a while back. It's mystical Judaism. It's pretty in depth. It's very, very complex mystical stuff. I will say that. But in this case, this is just a large data bank with lots of information. And Raziel's tree. Oh god, so gorgeous! I love it. So cool. I especially like the little, like, rainbow spectrum thing that's wrapping around it. So we're getting all the information about basically this whole thing. And it turns out that well, essentially this was a weapon that was carried from star system to star system. So we can assume that the you know, the organization that was moving this around, they probably weren't nice people. Even though the nice little captain that we saw at the beginning of the story was kind of like, you know, looking at a final picture of his wife and kid before crashing, he wasn't working for the good guys. So, that's crazy. And so now we're kind of seeing that there's an arc that's designed to carry this thing. So the nucleus of Raziel's tree. The Zohar. And the Zohar is also another part of Kabbalic Judaism, by the way, so that's a real thing. It's very interesting stuff. So it seems like all of creation on this earth came from basically a computer system or or organism, an interplanetary weapon. And it looks like our friend Graf has showed up. That is unfortunate. Damn it. We did it again. We thought that we were ahead of the game, and it turns out that Krelian was just waiting for us. That bastard. Alright, well, yeah, we can't let him have this thing. I mean, they've gotten so far, they're destroying the world with their stupid key that they unlocked, and everybody's turning into mutants. And now you can't have information about God's Ark and so forth. About this interplanetary weapon destruction system that created life on Earth. So weird, but so cool. So this is the Alpha Weltall, and he is going to totally kick your ass. Like, you can't win this battle. Believe me, I've tried. It's every hit that Graf does about 99.99, so if you can't hit him like that, it's just going to do 0 damage. So he's going to hit you, and then hit you a second time, and then hit you a third time. So this is just sad. This is just a tragedy. Even good old Faye in the mighty Weltall 2 is destroyed by the Alpha Weltall. So sad. So sad indeed. Graf is just too good. What can I say? I guess that means that they're gonna get access to the computer system. Graf, huh? Imperfect? What do you mean imperfect? Oh, I see. So, yeah, Graf's been doing this whole thing where he basically thinks that Faye in his form right now is not the desirable form. It's id that he's always been looking for. It's id that he desires. That's become pretty obvious from the beginning of the game. Is that he's attracted to id and he wants to unleash his power. But of course, right now, it is wearing that bracelet to make sure that doesn't happen. So he's kind of making the argument now that you know, by wearing this bracelet, by denying your true self, your id, that it's a bad thing. But of course, we see that Faye doesn't want this. He says that you know, id is not all of him. That it just makes up a component of him. And it's a part of him that he doesn't desire and he wants to get rid of, basically. The Graf is, of course, saying, "Ah, no, I'm going to unleash you." But meanwhile, you know, of course, Krelian's like, don't, let's not kill him right now. Kill the bait. What's he got in store? Krelian's always up to something just super devious. Uh-oh. Oh, Lacan. He's calling him Lacan. So this is kind of a shame that the Lacan that we've seen in flashbacks turns out to be this Graf dude. I mean, Graf just kind of seems like a tragic figure. So he just mentioned going to the land of Golgotha. This is actually a biblical thing. I think it's I'll have to look it up, but I think it's a land where a bunch of people were crucified and executed. Meanwhile, back in Nissan, no, those newly mutated people, they're looking bad. They're just like, ugh. They're looking disgusting, man. Ugh. So bad. Well. This is tragic. Like, I mean, the mutants, when they're kind of like, you know, partial away there, they don't look so bad. But now they're in bad shape. Ellie's going to have her hands full. Trying to keep this thing going. I'm surprised they're not using the cathedral, though. They're kind of using what looks like the meeting house where we were planning revolutions to house these people. I'm not sure how well equipped it is. Interesting, though. At least she's doing something. I mean, that's really good, is that she's kind of staying back and helping everybody. Meanwhile, while Faye, of course, has gotten his ass kicked by Graf and is now being used as bait. So we can assume that Krelian is using Faye to attract Ellie. Because as we saw in the first disc, he had a fascination with her as he was performing really weird experiments and so forth. So, oh yeah, is this pointing out the pennant? Yeah, the pennant of Nissan. There we go. So yeah, we can kind of assume that yeah, Faye had it before, and he had it at the beginning of the game. Not sure where he got it from, though. Kind of seems like the original person that had it was Sophia, way back in the day, but somehow Faye had it, so... It's interesting stuff. It's so funny because I thought that that little pendant was supposed to be like the Fatima Jasper for a long time, but as we all know, the Fatima Jasper is basically just retinal implants of the Fatima dynasty. So, and then that whole thing with Bart and Siggy turning out to be brothers. Uh-oh. Is that thing shining? Is it indicating that something's wrong? Dun dun dun. Yep, she senses something that happened. So there's a lot of foreshadowing in this game, obviously. And off she goes. To go right into a trap. Seems like wherever we go, Krelian is one step ahead of us. And then something awful happens. So how badly is this going to go? Again, I feel like I keep saying that. Find out in the next episode of Let's Play Xenogears. This is the Benjinator, and thank you guys for watching.